What's up, everybody? Thralls of Metal here. I'm Jammin John.
Necrotic Nick.
And we have yet another album review for you. One of the things I like about this channel that we get to do from time to time is go over fiercely underground bands that no one's ever heard of, because that's part of the charm of this channel. And we are going to do just that. Today we are going over the debut full-length from Primal Code with Opaque Fixation. This comes out on the 15th of November on Relapse Records. This band formed in 2022 in Chicago, Illinois. Again, this is their first full-length. They have an EP in 2022. I've never heard of these guys before, and that's kind of, again, something we do here.
I mean, I hadn't heard of them before up until I saw some singles released on Relapse's YouTube channel. I was like, hey, this sounds pretty gnarly.
It's a three-piece band, and although I'm not familiar with two guys in the band, the bassist Will Lindsay is an ex-member of a bunch of bands. Indian, Abigail Williams, Knock Mystium, Wolves in the Throne Room, things such as that. So again, I've heard at least stuff that he's done.
Yeah, and that's like quite a wide swath of different styles there. When I heard the singles, like this just had a very appealing sound, a very familiar sound. This is just some flat-out, gnarly, old-school death metal. I mean, kind of down to that meat and potato style of just chug and riff and groove. And honestly, I mean, like, this is stuff I just kind of gravitate to. Like, I'm a big fan of Obituary and Bolt Thrower and, like, Asphyx and fucking, you know, any number of bands that sort of embody that style. Frozen Soul, Genocide Pact, stuff like that. And this is 100% that, and done really well.
And unrelenting in that task, too. These guys never deviate from the path of just pummeling groove after pummeling groove. The production for this is perfect. Although we couldn't find who it was mixed by, it was mastered by Brad Boatwright, who's got a myriad of things under his belt as far as production is concerned. The drums are extremely punchy and tight. Reminds me a lot of like old Crowbar drums as far as that's all concerned. There's nothing really too flashy about it, but man, if he doesn't beat the shit out of that snare drum, I don't know what's going on. The guitars have a really nice crunch to them. The bass has this really low kind of gurgle and sizzle to it. It just sounds magnificent for what they're trying to produce.
Yeah, every song on here feels driven, intense. Every song has like what I would call blunt force trauma riffs. Yep. Right from the rip with the opening track, Anapsid. I'm not sure what that is. Doesn't matter. It stomps in and then just kind of sticks right to that, you know, classic Bolt Thrower double time groove, which you hear almost in every track.
Yeah.
I'm not really complaining. It's a death metal staple. I've never turned off a Bolt Thrower track for doing that. I've never turned off an Obituary track for doing that. In fact, I generally turn it up. But what I really like on here is the riff work. Now, the riff work is, again, like very straightforward. Like, there's nothing super flashy about what they're doing, but it's how they season it. And, you know, that's generally the thing that I look for in, like, more meat and potatoes death metal. You can be straightforward and just kind of lay on riffs and grooves, but if there isn't, like, something a little bit more to them, like whether it's, like, just an additional aggressive vibe or like flecks of melody or just some clever riff changes, it can get stale. Don't believe me? Well, I mean, go over the last couple of reviews we had where, you know, Raga Johansson was putting out albums, which he probably put out like 35 this year. Granted, I like a lot of his material, but sometimes it can sound a little stale, a little bare bones. These riffs have meat on them. Giant hunks of just, you know, meat for a caveman to gnaw right off the bone. But they also pepper in, again, like clever riff changes. Songs like Totem and Hive and Angler, lots of great, like just fun riff changes from just, again, like straightforward machine gun, battering ram, stampeding grooves to just halftime, almost kind of hardcore driven, like you will bang your head. The descending tremolos that are on Totem in particular adds a just air of like sinister kind of just, I don't know, grossness. It sounds a little evil and dark, kind of like Incantation or like Shed the Skin. But the stuff that really drew me in was when they slowed it down and just beat you over the head with, you know, the 2x4 size riff that they had at the moment.
And what dirty, pummeling, groove-filled death metal album would this be if it didn't have its own collection of doomy, sinister riffs? Songs like the title track or Derelict, which are just filled with nasty, doomy, slow, lurching, brooding grooves. At least in the beginning of the songs. It is downright gross.
Both those songs, in terms of just the way they lead in, it conjures up like just a little bit different atmosphere in here. which, I mean, the atmosphere is, I mean, it kind of just moves like, I don't know, every tank that I'm sure like Bolt Thrower wrote a song about, which I'm pretty sure that's at least like 800 or 900 songs. Right. They kind of like lock right onto that mid-tempo groove. These songs kind of open up with a more brooding, dark, sinister atmosphere. Some really just absolutely dark sounding harmonies that are peppered in. There's not really a lead to be found on here. And honestly, while I was listening to it, I didn't really even notice. I was just like so locked in on the riffs and the harmonies. Like, dude, this just sounds mean. It's aggressive. It's almost empowering in a way. But what they don't have in the way of like solos, they make up for with like some really solid, just brooding, dark hooks. Terminal in particular makes use of some really catchy tremolo harmonies. There's not a tremendous amount of like just big harmonized riffs. A lot of this, again, it's just flat out just chug your face off stuff. But when they do incorporate like some slightly different riff styles like tremolos, they generally harmonize it and kind of layer that effect and kind of just give it like an extra evil sort of flair.
And I like that. I like simplistic bands that just want to make things sound just a little bit darker and a little bit more evil. And I like the fact that this band uses even those moments kind of sparingly. Like, it's not packed with these evil moments, but when they do it, it's usually found in these really just gross descending harmonies and really gross low tremolos. Like in the last song, Stuck. I swear to you, I don't know how it's possible, but there's a chuggy tremolo. But that's something really cool to throw in there. I've actually never heard a chuggy tremolo. Again, I'm not sure how that's possible, but the sound is there.
I mean, it could be like just a layering effect with the guitars, but I mean, that song is heavier than hell. But that could adequately describe every song in here. There isn't a song in here that I feel skimps on heft at all. Vocally, I think this is kind of interesting where, I mean, it's very similar to like a Carl Willits sort of delivery where it's, you know, few words in kind of a space and a few words and they kind of draw it out. And his growl is kind of like a mid-register, but it's very raspy. And it just doesn't quite have like a very brutal sound, but it sounds, you know, more evil and sinister. And I guess some of their themes are kind of similar to Fear Factory, maybe without like the giant script to go with it. But I don't know, it's kind of interesting. You do get some vocal trade-offs every now and then. I'm not sure who's doing the backup vocals. They only had one vocalist listed. But IWL and Stuck, you get like some kind of like hardcore yells, almost gang vocals. There might have been like a pair in there. That kind of adds to the hardcore bite, especially on the chorus on IWL, which is just a stank groove. Like it's a pure hardcore punch your buddy, maybe throw a chair at the venue, maybe get kicked out, maybe get arrested. Hopefully you bought a shirt first. Baseline, one of the first things that kind of came to my head within like a couple of tracks is this is the kind of band I would love to see live. Yes. Like, I just want to see this sort of guitar tone hit people in the face and everyone just get a synchronized stank face, like someone shit their pants in the venue. Like, nah, the riff did that. Yeah, unless you did shit your pants, then fucking gross, dude.
And in the venue, too. What a rough place to shit your pants.
Good luck blaming that on anyone else.
I mean, not that there's a great place to shit your pants. I want to throw that out there. There's no great place. But at a venue, that's especially horrible.
The other conclusion I came to, and it's just sort of based on the amount of just flat-out disgusting riffs on here, this almost feels like, you know, if Kirk Windstein decided to do a flat-out death metal project, I think this is exactly what it would sound like. Like, it has that kind of crowbar heft to the riffs already. Just add like more death metal style playing and more death metal style drums. Like, there's still like familiar territory, like some D-beat stomps every now and then. And, you know, Crowbar loves those too. But the riff style being decidedly more sinister rather than somber, because no one does somber like Kirk Windstein when it comes down to a riff. There is like just some overlap there that I sense. One of the other things I really like about this is they draw out instrumental parts. Now, I like that. I think that's awesome because I'm all for dry humping a really good riff. Let me move in with that riff and get an apartment and, you know, it'll be totally cool until he kicks me out. Because you bet your ass I'm going to see other riffs. But I will say that sometimes this album gets a little bit monotonous. You know, it goes to that double time, both throw a groove well often. Granted, I love it, and, you know, it is similar, but, you know, it's something I've kind of grown up on, so, I mean, I'm not going to turn it off.
Right. It's not necessarily a complaint. I'll just say that sometimes they abandon the sick groove that they start out with really too soon. And actually it appears on the more doomy tracks we mentioned, where you've got this slow brooding groove and like you want to see it stick there, and then it kicks off a little too soon into D-beat or double time territory. And while they do revisit that slower, nastier moment, like I just feel like because all these songs are kind of set up the same way and have the same presentation as far as what they do, I just would like to see a little bit more dynamic in the presentation.
At the same time, I get where they're coming from. Like, you know, a lot of the bands we brought up, especially the older bands, Bull Thrower, Asphyx, Obituary, you know, those bands definitely are, I would say, kind of like the centerpiece here in terms of just, you know, the songwriting style. And I like that this not only reminds me of that, but it feels the same. Like, this reminds me of, like, the first time I jammed an Obituary album or a Bull Thrower album.
Yeah.
And I get that same vibe. It doesn't feel like a knockoff. It's like, dude, this is, like, super familiar to the point where, like, you know, teenage me is like, oh,
right?
I remember that feeling.
So overall, I'm going to give this record 4 stars. I actually really dug it. It's just a batch of mean, heavy, pummeling grooves, and they don't deviate from that. They stick with that for 100% of this record. Even though I had a slight complaint about switching to double time too soon, it doesn't really matter because the riffs are catchy, they're entertaining, they throw in harmonies in the right place. Again, meat and taters, but with the proper seasoning. The record, I think, even gets meaner and darker as it goes on. If you're a fan of just nasty, old school, groovy death metal, this is definitely the place to go. I'm very impressed by this being the first record. This oogas and it boogas really hard. If you're not beating someone over the head with a 2x4, you're doing something wrong, because that, I believe, was the intention of this album. If you're a big fan of bands like Jungle Rot, Bolt Thrower, Tribal Gaze, Frozen Soul, Obituary, Incantation, things like that, I'd probably definitely recommend checking this out. Again, I really dug this record.
Yeah, my expectations going into this were, I don't know, like kind of minimal. Again, brand new band, but I liked what I heard, and yeah, I'm at a 3.5. Pretty solid one too, and honestly it could grow to a 4. Like, this is just a flat out enjoyable listen. I mean, granted, a lot of this is very familiar territory. I love myself some old school death metal. I jam that shit all the time, and there's a good reason for it. It's awesome still. This is riff driven, groovier than hell. Yeah. I love the production here. Like, this thing sounds mean. I really want to see this band live. Granted, there are not a lot of ingredients on here, but they make use of the ingredients that they have to whop up just a hearty, calorie-loaded meal here of just mean-spirited, ugly riffs and savage grooves. I dig pretty much everything about this, but I will say that it does kind of get a little long in the tooth in sections, and it kind of gets a bit monotonous. But at the same time, it's monotonous at things I like. I just get tired of certain things that I like over a period of time. You can have too much of a good thing, believe it or not. But yeah, if you are a big fan of, I mean, a lot of the bands we've already brought up, Asphyx, Bull Thrower, Obituary, Jungle Rot, Genocide Pact, any band that just knows how to fucking lock on to a nasty groove and just wants to just crush you with a riff. Like, literally put your head in a vice and just riff it to death. That is exactly what this is. Check it out. This was a lot of fun. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also have memberships now. They are only 99 cents, and we will be doing a members-only live stream at some point. We just got to figure out a date to do that. And, I don't know, we'll probably put up a post in terms of, well, I mean, what would you guys like to talk about? You know, we're generally pretty open to talk about anything. Yeah, right? I mean, we have talked about everything. We've probably made some really dumb admissions, too. Anyway, we're open to talk about anything for that. But we also have dumb emojis. That's a thing to promote, I guess. And, yeah, this is kind of the new way to help support the channel. We are trying to get away from Patreon, and this also helps us pay for the rising prices of StreamYard, which we love the service. We just don't like the fact that we have to pay more for it.
Nope.
But we also still have our store too. T-shirts, hats as well. That is linked down below in the video description. And of course, if you are interested in joining the channel membership, there's a join button down below. So either or, check them out.
And all this stuff that we do, booger trolls and t-shirts and hats and album reviews and discography rankings and blah, 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 and the list goes on. We do stuff here all the time at Thralls of Metal, and it's all for you guys because we love the shit out of you. All of our subscribers and our fans, this is getting monumentally bigger by the day. We're almost at 20,000 subscribers, which is unfathomable for me. I never ever thought we'd ever get there, but here we are. We'll be doing a giveaway for that soon, eventually, as soon as we compile enough shit to give you. But yeah, just thank you. We're humbled. This has been an awesome experience, and we're gonna keep it coming, and we love you. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys absolutely roll. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you because of all your rulage, and we will catch you later.